Welcome to the webcast, Navigating the Top Challenges Facing Collision Repair Shops in 2013, sponsored by Autotex and produced by ABRN. Today's presentation will offer valuable insight into how to turn your customers into long-term shop advocates, while also providing an overview of the automotive physical damage economy, bringing technology into the front office, and treating the customer as king. This webcast will be presented by Rick Turry, Vice President of Industry Relations at Autotex, Neil Lowell, Senior Director of Product Management at Autotex, and Dave Henderson, Executive Director of Autotex AutoWatch. I'm Bruce Adams, Managing Editor of ABRN, and I'll be the moderator. Now let's get underway. Rick, can you start us off by talking a little bit about the automotive physical damage economy?
Sure, I'd love to. Thanks, Bruce. And I'd like to say good morning and good afternoon to everyone, depending on where you are in the country. We've seen some interesting trends here at Autotex over the past couple of years, and they sort of defied what we've seen in the prior years to that. And we're going to start speaking specifically about average repairable gross appraisal value, or what we're going to call GAV. We'll call it severity. It's just the average dollar value of an estimate. This is a value that we've seen creeping up over the years, as you would expect. And yet when we hit 2008, we started to see a different trend. What we started to see in this graph shows that in one view, quarter over quarter, what's happened to the gross appraisal value, the average gross appraisal value. Important to look at this by quarters because we did a couple of things in looking at the data. Number one, we did take out acts of God. We want to avoid the Superstorm Sandy syndrome, which really shouldn't figure into these kind of averages, because what we're looking for is predictability within the collision world. And as just by definition, acts of God are reasonably unpredictable, or some people would say unreasonably unpredictable. So we've done that, but we've kept in the differences that we see in seasonality, because winter tends to result in higher gross appraisal values on an average, and the summer months are milder. So this shows that in 2008, we'd reached a level where we were bouncing between anywhere between $2,300 and change and $2,450 for gross appraisal value. And then in 2009, and these are quarters, by the way, calendar quarters. So in 2009, you see a dip that we would expect, but it went down a little deeper than we might have thought. And then when you see the bounce back based on seasonality, you see that the gross appraisal value on average tended to stay down. And now we're seeing it start to creep back up again. And again, you look at the first or the last quarter of 2010, and then the first quarter of 2011, and you come back towards the winter time that we were experiencing. You see it come up a little bit, but it's still not at the same level that it was during 2008, and that's kind of curious. Take a look at the next graph, and it shows pretty much the same data, but in a different sort of format. What this shows is year over year by quarter exactly what's happened. So you look at the high value in 2008, and that's the dark line on the left of all four of these columns. And then you see, take quarter one, you see the dip in severity, and then you see the numbers start to climb back on average. So quarter one, you could see that we went from a little over $2,400, dipped down to the $2,350 level, and are now starting to climb back up a little bit. And you see that same trend in every quarter, with one or two minor aberrations, statistically insignificant, but nonetheless, what you generally see is the 2008, then the drop to 2009, and then the climb back into 2010. Now that's kind of curious to us, and a lot of people have tried to explain that. We've looked at a number of factors to try to explain that, and we dug a little bit deeper, I think, than most, and found something fairly interesting. We look at parts baskets and the mix of OEM and aftermarket parts and so forth, but we also look at the driving forces for that. So let's kind of park that in the parking lot for a second and take a look at something else. This is what's happened to the average repairable vehicle age since 2008. We had the Great Recession, and some people still say that we may not be out of it. Certainly, we are in at best a slow recovery. But what the Great Recession did was something fairly profound. It had a significant impact on new vehicle sales. Well, what do new vehicle sales do to the average population, the vehicle population out there that you and we are dealing with every day? Well, this graph shows you kind of what happened. While the average repairable vehicle age, had a tendency to be stable or creep up or go down because of new vehicle sales, we're finding the average vehicle age, and specifically the repairable vehicle age, creeping up. What does that mean? Well, it means that the cars that you're repairing, on average, are older now than in any time in history. I think J.D. Polk the Polk people came out and said that we're dealing with the oldest average vehicle in history right now on the road, and that oldest average vehicle in history on the road is also driving the oldest average repairable vehicles that we have seen in the collision marketplace, probably in history. So what does that mean? Well, it means that cost of repair is impacted by the age of the vehicle. Now, here's another graph, and if you just take a second to look at this, and I hope you can see this clearly, what this shows is something fairly interesting. What we did was, after looking at all the other factors, we started to say, well, what drives those factors? Well, vehicle age is a principal driving factor for any of the trends that we see, the use of OEM versus aftermarket parts, repair versus replace. We're starting to see more of that, especially since we did write an article in Directions about 18 months ago about the value of repairing versus replacing, specifically with bumper covers. Well, all that says that there are a lot of factors that come into play when the gross appraisal value is affected, and the age of the vehicle is critical. So we took a look at the age of the vehicle, and we broke the vehicle into 3, 5, 7, and 10-year-old cars. And you see something kind of interesting. Let's just start with the simple that the 3-year-old cars are on average are more expensive to repair than a 10-year-old vehicle, something you might expect. Well, what's happened is, even though the average gross appraisal vehicle or the gross appraisal value has decreased on average in total, in every category with one aberration on the 3-year-old vehicles, the cost to repair the vehicle has actually continued to rise, as you would expect that it would. Look at the 10-year-old vehicles. In 2008, you can see the benchmark there at about $1,700, and it's gradually crept up to almost $2,000. 7-year-old vehicles, you can see average is over $2,000, and it crept up to about $2,300. 5-year-old vehicles started out just about $2,500. Now it's creeping over the line. And 3-year-olds started up over $2,500 and have crept over the line. One aberration here, not statistically significant, but we will keep an eye on it. So it's very interesting to note that while the average gross appraisal value has gone down, the gross appraisal value for each block of years or each age, for vehicle by age has continued to increase, as you would suspect it would. So why would that happen? Well, it's simply because there are more old cars that we're repairing now than there were before. And here's just another look at the light vehicles sold to kind of give you an idea as to what's happening in the world of new vehicle sales. This is a 10-year rolling graph. It's kind of confusing. It might be an eye chart, but if you take a look at the first year, 2007, these are actual historical sales figures, and you can see that dark line on the right that shows how high new vehicle sales were. Then you see this amazing dip in 2008 and into 2009. New vehicle sales down extremely low, starting to climb back up again. And as you can see, it's a rolling graph. So you can see it move to. You can see all those columns move to the left, and you can start to see what's happening to the vehicle age and what's happening to the new vehicle sales. You can see if you just kind of draw a line from the low end in 2008 and 2009 up to the high end in 2020, that the new vehicle sales are bouncing back. We've seen a resurgence. If you read in Collision Week recently, we have seen an unexpected resurgence in new car values, or new car sales, I should say. And it's not all that unexpected, because what's happening in the world of used car sales, we've seen the prices climb to the point where they're at historic highs. Well, people are starting to realize that because of the cost of even though the cost of the used car might be a little lower than the cost of the actual new car, the actual purchase or the actual cost of ownership for a new car might be a more intriguing prospect for people. In other words, if a used car is $1,000 less than a new car, that sounds like it might be a better deal, but if I can get an incentive from the manufacturer or a very low interest rate, maybe it's cheaper for me to actually buy the new car on a month-to-month basis. People are starting to realize that. We knew that they would start to realize that about 9 months ago around this time frame, and they certainly are. And Superstorm Sandy actually did have an effect on new vehicle sales, and it was sort of unexpected. So all this tells you a couple of different things. Now, here's another view of the potentially repairable vehicles in operation. You take all that information into account, and you say, here's what we had in 2007 by age, and here's or by number, and here's what we see the dip because of the lack of new car sales. No new cars into the marketplace means that the potentially repairable vehicles in operation are going to drop. Less people buying new cars means that the age of the vehicle is going to go up. So we look at this graph and we say, you know, both these graphs show us that we probably will not see a resurgence in vehicles in operation, new car sales back to 2008 levels, and probably the cost to repair for until about the year 2020. That's a pretty profound impact for a recession to have. And here's a chart that just shows you very simply that the older a car gets, the more likely it is to be totaled based on a collision scenario. So all this says that the recession had a profound impact on our industry. It caused the gross appraisal value to dip from 2008. It's now climbing back, but we don't expect it's going to reach 2008 levels for a while. And while the gross appraisal value has declined, the GAV based on vehicle age has actually increased, like you would suspect that it would, based on the age of the vehicle. So again, it costs more to repair a 3-year-old car than a 5-year-old car, and it's costing more every year to repair a 3-year-old car. But all that, and that's why we learned algebra when we were in high school, all that says that because of the aging vehicle population, even though the cost to repair each of the car by year has increased, the overall average has decreased because there are more older vehicles in the mix. So the vehicles in operation has declined, is now rising. More importantly, the repairable vehicles in operation has declined, but is now rising. More new cars are going to lower the vehicle age and get us back to historical levels, we think, eventually. And lower used car values are going to increase totals, so we're going to see more totals, I think, in the couple of years to come. But none of this is really going to bounce back to the 2008 levels until we predict the year 2020, given the unforeseen, or barring the unforeseen. So that's a snapshot of what we think you're looking at in terms of your business prospects and propositions, what you've been through, what you're in, and what you're probably going to go through from here on.
Thank you, Rick, for that insider's look at the automotive physical damage economy. We're now going to turn this over to Neil Lowell, who will talk about bringing technology into the front office.
Thanks, Bruce. Hello, everyone. My name is Neil Lowell. I'm a Senior Director of Product Management at Autotex. One of the things that we focus on is making sure that we're providing the most accurate and efficient solutions for our users, but we also focus on providing solutions that result in the superior and differentiated customer experience. Customer expectations have certainly changed drastically over the last couple of years. When a customer visits a repair facility, it's estimated that it takes less than a second for them to make their first impression. Obviously, since you haven't had a chance to talk with them yet, their first impression is almost solely based on the visual appearance of your repair facility, and hopefully it doesn't look like this. Vehicle owners are looking at, is your shop clean? Is it maintained? Is it organized? Do the employees appear competent? Furthermore, when introducing yourself to customers, research shows that only 7% of their first impression comes from what you say. Only 7%. That means the other 93% comes from what they see and how you present yourself, your dress, your body language, your demeanor, your attentiveness. What we learned from these things is that dealing with customers is more than just about what they hear. It's also very important about what they see. That first impression it's what's going to help customers be confident enough that this is where their vehicle belongs. To add to this, the technology included in newer vehicles is increasing at an astonishing rate. The new technology brings more safety for vehicle owners, but it also brings more complexity for the repair. So helping customers understand some of this complexity will help build confidence in your repair facility and your ability to restore their vehicle back to its original state. And the reason I bring these topics up is because in today's world, it's becoming less acceptable for vehicle owners, for the estimators at repair facilities to disappear into a back room for 15 minutes to write an estimate, then come out with a sheet of paper with a bottom line dollar amount. Vehicle owners want to be more involved. They want to be more informed. and this is your big chance to sell them on your differentiated knowledge and value. Autotex is seeing more and more that our software is being introduced to clients on the front line, not just for the end dollar amount result, but also as an education and communication tool, and the results have been very positive. Let's walk through some of this technology and how it's being used. The first interaction with the customer will be to ask them questions to help them identify their vehicle after visual inspection, or at least it was in the past. Now, with Autotex's intelligent vehicle identification service called AutoVIN, you can automatically identify a customer's exact vehicle by pulling the vehicle's RPO or regular production options directly from the manufacturer. This means that you'll be able to write a faster and more accurate estimate while at the same time building confidence with the customer that you know the exact configuration of their car down to every included package and option. This changes the conversation you have with the customer. Now you can say things like, okay, Mrs. Smith, it looks like according to GM, this vehicle has the GT package with the optional navigation and collision avoidance features. Does that sound right? The power of this fast and accurate vehicle identification really comes to life when you're able to visualize it in lifelike 3D graphics, color-coded by substrate materials and color-coded to show the parts that are included on the estimate. This allows you to take the opportunity to involve the vehicle owner in understanding how you will perform the repair and exactly what's included on the estimate. At the same time, because we're linking the power of the AutoVIN vehicle identification technology to Autotex's exclusive option-driven database, that means you'll only have access to select the parts on the vehicle that are on that exact configuration of the customer's vehicle. This means more accurate part orders and a reduced chance of repair delay for the customer. As vehicles become more and more complex, it's important for customers to understand that not every repair facility is the same. We're seeing that some repair facilities differentiate themselves by hanging large flat panel monitors in their lobby and using Autotex technology to walk the customer through the repair using our 3D graphics. Other repairs are ditching the old camera and clipboard routine and instead taking a tablet, like a new Windows 8 tablet, out to the vehicle. This allows them to interact more with the customer using cutting-edge technology, which helps vehicle owners become more confident in you. Because remember, 93% of a customer's first impression is what they see, and that includes the technology that you're using. Finally, your communication shouldn't stop with the first encounter. Keeping customers informed every step of the way will help them stay confident that they made the right choice with your repair facility. History has proven, as Dave will explain next, that customers don't get upset or lose faith if a mistake happens, as long as they're kept informed every step of the way. Keeping customers up to date doesn't have to be a tedious and labor-intensive process. With today's technology, Autotex does all of the legwork for you. Dave will show you that some of that soon. If there's one thing that we've seen, it's that more and more vehicle owners want to be empowered, especially the younger generation. They want information and they want to feel like they have choices. With Autotex's technology, we aim to create an end-to-end self-service experience where customers can easily identify their own vehicle using AutoVIN, enter their exterior damage description in 3D, take the appropriate photo using Autotex's exclusive photo guides, and communicate with reputable repairers about getting their vehicle back on the road. We at Autotex believe the right solutions are not just paper-based estimate printouts, but rather intelligent and cutting-edge solutions that involve the customer with the goal of making them raving fans and continued social supporters long after the repair is complete. So in conclusion, we're seeing technology being used by the vehicle owners more and more, and we're going to continue to introduce innovative technology into the market that helps you, our customers, have this dynamic and superior interaction with your customers, the vehicle owners.
Thank you, Neil, for your insight on bringing technology into the front office. Our next speaker is Dave Henderson, who will talk about the customer as king.
Great. Yes. Thanks, and welcome, everybody, and thanks for this opportunity. Neil, that was awesome because it really does paint that picture that that first impression when that customer walks through the door, they're looking at everything. And I thought it was really interesting how you said even the appearance of your shop, the appearance of the dress of the folks, because that's where we're impacting them. And they truly are the king, and that's what we want to look at as we run through this next little segment here. And we're going to be talking, of course, about the AutoWatch piece. It is very customer-focused, and it has proven results over the time that we've been running the system. In fact, we were the pioneers of the online status updates, and we've currently have over 4,000 shops that use this system. on a daily basis. But about 2.3 million claims have been processed through the AutoWatch system, and about 2.5 million pictures in the last 12 months. The only reason we show that is because you can see the robustness of the system and how well it's being used. It has a solid history and outstanding performance, so we've got that history behind us. And what's really cool is that the customers will actually view their vehicle on average about 14 to 16 times while it's in your shop being repaired, because they really want to be communicated in this type of way. So I thought it'd be fun just to take a few minutes and go through some of the customer trends that are out there and just see what they're doing. Customers are saying that they want less phone calls. They would like more web, text, and email communications. And that trend is growing every day. And I'm sure you've all seen the reports that have been done by multiple organizations that show the data that they're saying, don't call me. Don't call me at all. I would like to be emailed. I want text. I'd like to go to a website and find the information when it's convenient for me, and that's really what we need to address. And as you look at that, that there's a whole new level of communications that the consumers are looking for. Another trend is using technology. Customers want to instantly track and be alert of events and information they find interesting or important. And we know that the accident of their vehicle is extremely important to them. It's the second largest investment they have, and they're very, very concerned about that. What we say is we can now make it interesting, because it is really interesting what we do to these vehicles. And as you know, is my background, many of you know, is I was an auto body technician for 30 years. And to bring that car back to life, it's very visual, and it's very, very interesting. And that's what we found. We can make this interesting for the consumer. And when they come in to view their vehicle, and I'm going to show you in a minute the multiple ways they can do that, that's a huge marketing opportunity and a great way to get their loyalty to your shop when they see that. So I know we can make it interesting, because we've seen the comments and we've seen how they've come back around that. Facebook is another really, really interesting piece. There's over 1 billion users of Facebook today. It was just totally amazing how fast that came on. And if you look at any given day, 50% of those users are active on Facebook. So today there will be 500 million people will log into Facebook. What's even more interesting than that is the average user will spend 55 minutes a day on their Facebook account. And when I talk to collision centers, I say, if you can get a customer to come to your website for like 2 minutes, you've done an amazing thing. They get them for 55 minutes sitting in Facebook. And what's really, really interesting is the average user has 130 friends. And you can back this data at Facebook's where we got it, but 130 friends. So we looked at that and said, that is a median that we have to tap into. We have to be able to leverage that for our collision centers. So what we did is this is a view of what a typical customer portal for a collision center looks like, and we just dropped this right into your website. But what we did is we added down in that lower left corner, you'll see the little Facebook icon. And when customers come into the shop, as the shops communicate with them and are talking to them about how they're going to be communicating, they say, hey, do you use Facebook? And some customers say, no, but many will say, yeah, I love Facebook. Well, great. While you're on the site looking at your car, click the Facebook icon. We can link the photos right to your Facebook wall. And so they click on that little icon, and it's very, very simple. It just says your photos are now linked to your Facebook account, and if they're not online, they'll have to log in on their Facebook account, but it links it. It's truly that easy and simple to do. And what happens is every time the shop will send in photos to us, they'll also be posted up on the Facebook wall, that consumer's Facebook wall. And as you know how that works, that just went on all their friends' wall. So you just tapped 130 of their friends. And the numbers are just amazing. We see the average view goes up to about 56 average views per vehicle, and 13% have over 100 views. And that is just amazing when you see how viral this becomes as far as the number of visits. We say that this is marketing at its best. When you get a customer to show their friends your collision center on their Facebook, that's as good as you can get it as far as the viral side of this. And this is different than what others have told you to do as far as like you need a fan page, and you do need a fan page. We're not taking that away. But it's really difficult to get people to come to your fan page. It takes a lot of work, where this here is the consumer showing their friends and driving them right to that. So really, really cool results from that. Another one is email. Marketers are missing a great chance to make a great first impression. In a study of companies, 60% did not send a welcome message. And what's even more shocking is 81% did not use the collected data to personalize the outgoing message. And of course, within our system, it's completely automated, meaning that when you send a photograph in, an email is automatically generated to the consumer, greets them by name, has all your information about your shop, and says, here's a link to view your vehicle, so that's very personalized. And we do that on when the vehicle first comes into the facility, and every time you update a photo, we're going to fire that email off to that consumer. So we're keeping them at the highest level we can as far as keeping them informed and really cut down on the need to pick up that phone and start calling. Text messaging is another one. 79% of the U.S. has a cell phone that is text ready. In fact, I think it's much higher than that. Hardly know anybody that doesn't have text on their phone today. But what's really interesting, text messages are usually read within 6 minutes. I know I love text messaging. It's what's neat about text messaging. I can be in a meeting anywhere, and a text command, I can take a quick peek at it. It's not intrusive to everybody else around me, and people really like to communicate this way, and you really need to consider doing that with your consumers. And on average, Americans send and receive twice as many text messages as phone calls per month. So again, as we looked at that, we said, how do we keep everybody ahead of that trend? So what we did is we fully automated text message system that requires no data input from your personnel. With AutoWatch, you don't sit at a computer, you don't update where the vehicle's at, you don't do all those things. It's all done from a smartphone or from a photograph. And when you fire in the photographs, we send out a text message to the consumer telling them exactly where it's at. And there's a little link, as you can see in the bottom there. And when they click on that link, they actually view their vehicle right from their smartphone. And they can see the shop name, the advisor, the expected delivery date, the status. It's all right there in their phone. It's very, very handy and very, very neat for them to see that. What we see with the results of that, about 24 average views per vehicle, and 3% have over 100 views, and we'll deliver over 400,000. In fact, I think the numbers will be closer to 500,000 text messages in 2013, keeping consumers updated. And that is so important, as you're going to see in a few minutes when I show you some data around that, of why it is important you keep them updated, and we really keep them updated in the way we want. You know, again, it all goes back to even when Neil started. That first impression when they walk through the door of how we look, and then the technology we're using to write the estimate, especially that 3D estimating, if you've never seen it, you got to look at it. That really shows a customer that, you know, you've got the technology, and then to take a communication to this level, you've really rounded your shop out really, really nice. It's really simple to use. We use an iPhone or an Android, or you can use a regular camera, but if you want to use the Android or iPhone, it really actually makes it much smoother. What you would do with your iPhone, you would just open up the AutoWatch utility, select the customer's name or the RO number, select the stage of repair, and say, I'd like to take photographs. And when you say, I'd like to take the photos, you simply shoot the picture of the vehicle, and if you like it, you say accept. And when you say accept, it just instantly updated right into our database. In fact, you can do, I demoed this just Monday at a company, and I took a picture sitting in a conference room of a model car we had on the desk. Before I could log back into the site, the car was there, ready, and posted for the customer to see. It moves that fast, and it's that seamless. So every time you're at a car, if you have your phone with you, you can update the status on that vehicle. And it really, really does move really nice. So, but this screen here is a powerful one here. And this is the vehicle owner's perception of being repaired on time, even though the repair facility did not meet the original promise date. So think that through. What we did is we have a full post-repair CSI system where we electronically survey the customer. As soon as we know by taking the photograph that the vehicle is completed, we will send off an electronic survey. I think it's 3 or 5 days, whatever we set it at. And we can do the full post-repair CSI, which is about 10 questions. We actually do one during the process, which is 3 questions. So now you get data while the customer's, got the car in your shop, and you can resolve any issues right there. And that's the power of them coming into the website. But this is done off our post-repair CSI. And we ask the question, was your vehicle delivered on time? And now, we're unique in our CSI in that we know the start date and we know the date you told the customer. And we also know when the customer says, yes, we know the delivery date. So we compare and say, here's what you told the customer you'd deliver, and here's when you delivered. Then we ask that question, was it repaired on time? And if the vehicle owners were kept informed, 80.6% of them said we delivered on time, even though we missed the delivery date. Their perception is that we hit that delivery date. And as you all know, in the real world, perception is all that matters. You can deliver early, and if a customer thinks you delivered late, it doesn't matter what you tell them. And this is the same case. We delivered late, but they think we delivered early because they've been so involved in this repair, they've been watching it online, and that's critical. And if you see the next line down, vehicle owners that were not kept informed, and they clicked in the survey and said, I was not kept informed, only 17% of them said their vehicle was delivered on time. So you can see the gulf between these two, and I'm sure you've seen all the other data from other organizations, how important communicating is. And this is critical that we communicate well to your customers because you're going to make them happy and you're going to build that loyalty. And we need that loyalty from the customers so that they'll share with their friends and come back. The next one is being kept informed positively impacts vehicles owners' willingness to recommend. Now, this is when we talk about insurance, this is retention. For a collision center, this is your repeat business right here. And kept informed vehicles, which were 95.1% of them said they were kept informed, scored a 9.4 on the 10-point scale. And this is on the Net Promoter Scale. You probably heard it called this NPS, which is the ultimate question. We won't go into that too much detail here, but Google it. Google Net Promoter Score, and you can read all about it. You've all been a victim of it. The question is, would you recommend us to your friends and family and coworkers? If they score a 9 or a 10, they're what we would call a promoter. They're going to promote you. If they're a 7 or 8, they're passive, meaning they're not going to promote, they're not going to say bad. And anything below that is a detractor, and they're going to talk bad. So what does that mean? That means I go out to dinner, I get my car back, I go out to dinner tonight, I sit out with my friends. If I'm a 9 or a 10, I said, hey, I got my car back from the collision center. Man, did they do a nice job. That thing looks beautiful. And I was watching it all the way through the repair process. They did an awesome job. So that's the promoter. The passive is the guy who I go out to dinner and I sit there and don't say much. And someone says, hey, I see you got your car back. Yeah, I did. It looks good. That's passive. The detractor is where we sure don't want them, is when we go out to dinner, I sit down and say, never take your car to Dave's Collision Center. They butchered it. And we don't want them to say that, of course. So the idea is we want to keep them. And if we keep them informed, keep them involved in this process, we will see these kind of numbers start to flow out of that. That's why it's critical that as a collision center that you have these communication type tools in place. When we look at it, we say, seeing is believing. And AutoWatch puts the customers at ease. The photographs are the proof. The photographs say I am doing exactly what I say, when I say, how I say, and why I say. They're the fun part of the experience because it is very, very visual what we do with this car. I always go back when I was a body technician and I did heavy repair, and someone would come down to go to lunch with me, and they would walk in and they'd see what I was doing in the car and they'd say, this is cool. And it is. This is really amazing what we do to these cars. And seeing is believing, and it truly puts those customers at ease when they're able to see that vehicle and document that. There's a lot of other stuff, of course, built into the system that is really powerful that we don't have time to go through today. But I guess the point we wanted to drive home is communicating to that customer, treating them like they truly are the king, opens a door. And when you open the door through this web portal, you now offer them 24/7 access. And, man, we live in a 24/7 access world, and now your collision center has the same thing. They can email you at midnight if they like. They don't expect an answer, but they know they dropped a message. They will expect an answer in the morning. And that's the power of communicating with the consumer because you can drive those numbers. Any questions? Yep.
Thank you, Rick, Neil, and Dave, for this comprehensive look at some of the challenges that shops are facing in 2013. We'd like to take this opportunity to solicit questions from our viewers. If you have a question you'd like to ask any one of our three presenters, simply type it up and send it to us through the electronic channel that's provided. Someone's already discovered this function because we have our first question, and I think this might be directed at Rick. how does the tendency of vehicle owners keeping their vehicles longer impact the trends?
Well, that's an interesting question because, again, as the numbers show, the longer the vehicle owner retains the vehicle, the older the vehicle repairable vehicle population is, and the repairable vehicles in operation. So what that's going to do is it's going to continue to reduce the overall gross appraisal value, the average gross appraisal value. But again, important to remember, I've got a lot of friends that run collision repair centers, and they've kind of been theorizing as to why they've seen a drop in the average gross appraisal value, because people tend to look at that in aggregate as opposed to isolating data the way that we do. And when you look at it in aggregate, you can come up with all kinds of reasons and questions as to why that average has gone down. Some people think that it's because we're in recessionary times and everyone, repairers and insurers alike are looking for smarter and less expensive ways to do things. And of course, there's always that driving force and factor. But again, no matter what the vehicle age is, if you take a look at our data, what you see is it still costs more to repair that vehicle now than it did 5 years ago, which is intuitive. It's what you'd expect. So the longer people keep their cars, the more you're going to see an exacerbation and a sort of pressure on the average gross appraisal value, and the more that will be suppressed. But again, important to remember, especially when you're running a collision repair facility, that's not making the dent that you think it is for the reasons that you may think it is. Because remember that graph where you look at the 3 and the 5 and 7 year old vehicles still cost more to repair each one of those cars every year than it did the year before.
Thanks, Rick. Now, how does involving your customer from the beginning of the process improve customer satisfaction?
I'm sorry.
Neil, do you want to take a crack at that one?
Yeah, sure. So, in today's world, customers know that they have a choice. They have a lot of capabilities of doing research on the internet. Look at the introduction of Yelp. No longer do you just kind of look in the yellow pages anymore for what restaurant to go to. You're going to look up the restaurants that have the best reviews. You're going to look at their menus. You're going to use the data, or today's generation uses the data on the internet to decide where they go to. So, when they come to your shop, when they make that decision, you have the opportunity to capture that sale, capture that repair. And if you're not introducing everything you have, technology and the cleanliness of your shop and your tools, if you're not giving it your all to close that sale, customers know that all they have to do is use their mobile phone to find the next shop. So it's extremely important that first impression is of the highest quality and that you're giving it your all, not just to generate the estimate, but really to take that opportunity to introduce the customer into the process, to educate them, to make it feel more personal so that, the increased customer satisfaction keeps their repair at your repair facility.
Hey, Neil, this is Rick. If I might, I know I talk to collision repair facilities that are on the cutting edge of this kind of thing, and that's exactly what they say is the minute the customer walks through the door, I can engage them and begin, the process of keeping their business and selling them by getting them involved in the whole repair process from the beginning. And instead of just saying, sit down and I'll go write an estimate, actually walk around the vehicle with the car, talk to the customer while you're doing it. And what they found is their retention scores have gone way up with regards to actually, quote, writing the estimate to closing the job. Their close ratio is much higher than it was before. So it's real data that shows that does work.
There's a question here, does Autotex have a motorcycle database, and if so, can you discuss that a little bit?
Yeah, this is Rick. I can speak to that, and Neil, you could probably chime in. Yes, we do have a motorcycle database. I think it's fairly robust. We've had it for quite some time. It's got a lot of, I'm not sure how many manufacturers we have. Neil, do you have any idea how many manufacturers we have?
I don't have the stats off the top of my head, but the benefit of our motorcycle database is that it's completely integrated with our existing estimating solution. So whether you're identifying a automobile or whether you're identifying a motorcycle, you identify it the same way using the same VIN technology, and you're going to use the same estimating workflow and the same estimating solutions to identify that motorcycle. Now, the motorcycles are not in the lifelike 3D yet of our software, but you still do get the same level of accuracy and the same workflow. You don't have to go to another application, another solution.
Okay. Let's see. There's a question. AutoWatch and attracting new DRP programs. Okay. What are the possibilities for AutoWatch and attracting new DRP programs?
Yeah, great question. We get that asked a lot, and it is absolutely a big win to try to attract new DRPs. What you'll find is all your DRPs today are focused on customer service. That's where the insurance companies are focused right now. The reason being is because they know customer service will drive retention, and they can't afford to lose anyone. So as they approach their DRP networks, they're looking for shops that will deliver the highest level of customer service. And even if it's an insurance company that's not requiring an AutoWatch type program, and of course multiples are, but even if they're not, when you're trying to approach that insurance company or that local person, and you sit them down and you show them how you are communicating with the consumer, text, email, Facebook, web portal, and that you're sending them photos and you're keeping them in the loop, and show them the results of that, and then show them how your CSI during the process and after, that makes an impact on that person who's going to decide who goes into the DRP. I got a shop over here who's still stuck there making phone calls, and I got a shop over here who's leveraging the latest and the greatest technology and is delivering me the reports back. We have a robust reporting system that you can actually give to the insurance folk and say, here's my cycle time, here's my CSI performance, here's what I'm doing. That will definitely give you an edge over your competition to try to gain that DRP work, for sure.
Hey, Dave, this is Rick again. If I might, Autotex has two councils. We have a strategic advisory council and a technical advisory council. Both are inter-industry. Both include repairers and insurers. And at the strategic advisory council level, one of the top 10 things that the insurers and repairers agreed upon was that they wanted a virtual window into the shop for the repairer and the insurer. If you think about it from an MSO perspective, the MSO, at the corporate level might want to see what's going on in every shop. The insurer wants to see what's going on in every shop, so it's a value. They see value there to open up that what we call the virtual window to the shop. And what that does is that ties the insurer and the repairer closer together and ties them both closer together with the consumer. So that kind of relationship is definitely, has proven to and explicitly has been stated as very important from the insurer perspective. And DRP, whether you participate or have your issues with it or not, it is the way of the future. We were just at a conference, or just at the Verifax conference, where pretty much everyone agreed that DRP is here to stay and it's only going to grow. So,
right.
So to open up the window to your shop and have that available for an insurer and be able to share that is very, very critical. And we've seen both the shops and insurers agree that that's something that they need and that they want.
Yeah, and that's interesting, the visibility into the shop, even for the MSOs. What we've done is when we work with MSOs, we have what's called ClaimWatch, which is what the insurance companies use to look into all the shops that are under DRP. We do the same system. We do it to an MSO, no matter what size the MSO is. And now from one location, anybody can log into any one of their shops and take a look at their inventory, take a look at the jobs, take a look at reports. It's really, really robust. But yeah, we see that all the time. Yep.
And frankly, this is Rick again. I'm a middle baby boomer. I'm a mid baby boomer, and I never really thought that I never really wanted. I've wrecked a lot of cars, and I never really thought about, gee, I wonder what's happening with my car today. I just wanted it back repaired. But the younger generation absolutely cares about it. My daughter ordered a car once, and she was emailing me saying, "Oh, gee, Dad, the car it's in paint. It's coming out of paint today." And I'm thinking, what do I really care where the car is? I just want it delivered. But the younger generation definitely wants access to this information. So you've got insurers that want it, your clients that want it. It's the way of the future and the present.
And here's another question pertaining to AutoWatch for you, Dave. Does AutoWatch enhance SEO, search engine optimization, and if so, how?
Yeah, and I will tell you that I am not an expert on search engine optimization, and there's companies that specialize in that. That's a really interesting animal. It's a moving target. But what I did is we engaged an SEO company that we were doing some work with to offer to our AutoWatch customers. And it was really interesting when they said that our ranking of AutoWatch it's so high that anybody that puts the AutoWatch piece on their website will probably automatically move up just because it's linked and this is how search engine optimization works, because it's on your site and you have a link to this other site which is in that industry that has so much volume, you automatically get a little boost in that. But yeah, it's a very wild game, that search engine optimization. But being linked to someone or a company like an Auto Watch that has so much activity, I mean, millions and millions of things going on that every day, that definitely the search engines look at that and say that's a pretty viable site, so it could help. But search engine optimization, like I say, that's a pretty specialized animal right there.
Are there any insurance companies that require AutoWatch to be on their DRP programs? And if so, which ones are those?
Yes, Nationwide Insurance requires that you be on their DRP. They were the first one of the insurance companies to engage with us, and they weren't very long into it when they made it a requirement. And so you do sign when you sign on their DRP that you will do the AutoWatch program. Esurance was the second one, right in line with Nationwide, that is required. That if you're going to be in their DRP, you will do this. And they use it for their claims operation because it gives them a great value. And what really drove it is when they seen the customer service side of this. And they said, we want this experience for every customer. So that's why they mandated that it happens, because the numbers are phenomenal on the CSI scores, customer satisfaction scores, retention. It all drives in there. And it's the same thing a shop gets too. And then there's others that are on there that, and we have some that are coming on right now. But yeah, it's definitely part of some of the DRPs.
I'm not sure who's going to want to take a stab at this one, but what do you think is a reasonable on-time delivery percentage?
I could probably tell you what that is inside of our AutoWatch program. I'd have to get the data. I'm going to take a guess, but we're seeing it in the 70 to 80 percentile. And when we look at the on-time deliveries, that is from the original delivery date. And it's extremely high, and that's one of the reasons why the insurance companies love it, because the shops deliver on time. I don't know what it is in market-wise. Rick might have a better handle on that than I do.
No, I think that's about right, Dave.
Okay.
How does the Autotech system save time when doing repairs?
This is Rick. I'll take a stab at that, and Neil, I think you might want to jump in or not. But from my perspective, I used to run track, and they used to tell us the start is half the race. And what I tell people is, if correct, accurate part numbers for your vehicle down to make, model, style, year, engine, and option are important on an estimate, and I think they are. And if the correct, up-to-date part price is important on an estimate, and I think it is, and the correct and accurate complete labor times for your vehicle down to make, model, style, year, engine, and option are important, then the Autotech's estimating system is the start of that race. So the better start you have, the better opportunity you have to finish. I wrecked a lot of cars, and I've had a lot of repairs done, and I've seen some repairs that were better than others, let's say, and the bad repairs that I've seen and have had to go back and get redone, I can tell you from experience, all started with the estimate. So to me, it's important, and that's why when Neil talked about our automated option-driven database, it's really the difference between us and the competition, where we can automatically get you part numbers and prices and labor times based on the description of the vehicle, and particularly with AutoVin, where it's 100% accurate. Whereas with the other systems, you may have to have some manual intervention for the user to select parts, where in Autotex we can automate that part and the labor. I think that's really important for getting a start on that repair and achieving consistency and having a common language that you can speak through the repair shop and into the insurer and the customer, as a matter of fact.
Yep. Excellent point, Rick. So, I mean, the database with AutoVin connected to the option-driven database is critical, but we're also bringing that to the visuals at the front end as well. So, being able to identify the vehicle with one click and then seeing the exact representation of that car in 3D, not only is that helping estimators make sure they have the right part identified when they put in the estimate, but they also can have that conversation with the vehicle owner in the front end, and they can also have that conversation with their, with the repair personnel in the backside, on the back end. So, we've seen the 3D graphics being taken actually to the shop floor so that they can show in 3D spinning the assembly of different panels, the assembly of suspension components to help with that repair, understand what has to be done to actually make that repair happen. Things that you can't do with old paper-based or 2D technology. So we're seeing that the newer technologies, the 3D and the enhanced efficiency gains, driving benefits throughout the entire process, from the very beginning with the customer all the way to the very end with the repair.
Yeah, we had some shops in for a focus group, and it was just really interesting to hear the ones that were using the 3D app, how well they use that in their sales process when the customers come in. And I think, Neil, you mentioned about having the monitor up on the wall. They have them facing the customer side on their desk, and clone their screen so the customer can actually watch them write that estimate in 3D. And they said it's just amazing how consumers react to that. So.
That also answers, I think, one of the other questions that we're seeing there, Bruce, and if I might just dogpile on that one. When we first introduced 3D, people kind of thought, I'm old enough to remember when the laser was invented, and they called the laser the solution without a problem. And now you can't walk 5 feet and not run into a laser. You've probably got a laser, a generated or using device in your own home. Well, it's pretty much the same with 3D. We introduced 3D, and some people said, well, I'm not really sure why I would want that. One of my shop friends from Atlanta called me up and said, I've got this thing up on a 40-inch flat screen. My consumers are staring at it. It's improved my close ratio, and I've had 3 insurers come and say, I want to see what you're using. So he actually generated an interest and improved his close ratio with his customers as well as with his insurance partners.
And by the way, for those of you who do use 3D graphics today, we're making continuous improvements all the time, and we have some really exciting enhancements coming out in 2013. So look forward to even better things to come.
Next question is about auto watch and video.
Yep.
Why can't auto watch go to video?
Yeah, and we've get that question, and we've actually explored it and looked at it, and I can't say that's not something that we will see in the future. In that where you could go out and you could actually take a video camera and videotape around the car too. So that's definitely something that we're kind of exploring with it. We're not sure the take rate on that. And I know some shops have experimented with putting cameras up where the customer can control the camera, but you lose some of the like you say the holding of the photos and the archive with digital photographs. We carry an archive for the shop, and it's really interesting. I mean, we solve claims almost every day here, where a shop will call in for photos that they worked on a car 6 months ago, and we can send those back to them, and now they have the documentation and photograph of what they did to the vehicle and solve any discrepancies either with a customer or an insurance company. And sometimes you go to video, that's going to be really hard to dive through. But it's definitely something that we've looked at and definitely something that's on our radar screen.
Okay, let me weed through this now. Next question is, I guess this goes back to your presentation, Rick. Didn't the Cash for Clunkers program have an effect on the trend of car sales in 2008 to 2010?
Well, I have to assume that the Cash for Clunkers did have an effect. We read what a good program it was, and all I can say is if it did have an effect, just think of how bad things would be right now if it hadn't been there.
Right. Yeah.
Because, again, the drop in new car sales was absolutely profound to this industry. I don't think I can make that point strongly enough. We were in a world where vehicles in operation was on constant rise, and we were fortunate enough to live in a country where there are almost, I think, I'm not sure about the figures, but there are significantly more registered vehicles than there are licensed drivers. Like I think 2 times or to a factor thereof, and to the point where when my friend Kim Hazelbaker from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, or from HILDI, I should say, Highway Law State Institute, gives presentations around the world, he gets people in other countries looking at him kind of cross-eyed because there they have less registered vehicles than licensed drivers, and here the numbers are significantly in our favor. And when we see the trend for years doing what it did, and then all of a sudden 2008 comes along and it just kind of falls off of you see the new vehicle sales fall off of a cliff, and that raises the average age of a vehicle to the oldest cars that were driving on the road basically in history. That's a pretty profound effect. So again, if the Cash for Clunkers program did have an effect, thank goodness it was there, depending on what you think of that program, because it could have been a lot worse.
Oh, yeah.
Very good. We have time for one more question, and that is, what kinds of technology can be used to help customers better understand the collision repair process?
Well, I would say AutoWatch is one of them, of course, because they get to see it. And one of the things we do is we have 10 stages to our repair process that a vehicle goes through. And every photograph lines up with one of those stages. And when they're logged in and on that home screen, it says, your car's in structure repair, and there's a little says right next to it says, what is this? And if they click on that, it takes them right over and gives them an explanation of what is structure repair. And what's really interesting, when we put that out there, we thought we put that on the system thinking that'll be really cool if a customer wants it. When we do Google Analytics, that was the third most visited page on the website was what is this type thing. So we've tried to give that to the consumer so they can see these stages, and it flows with the exact stages they're going to be updated on. Like I said, we have 10 of them, which are pretty basic, and that's really been a win, big win.
Well, and I'd have to say that the Autotex, the intelligence built into the Autotex database also has an effect there. And when you throw in the power of 3D that Neil was talking about, and we've seen some very great results with that. And then again, the out-of-in technology. I mean, the more accurate, up-to-date, the most complete information that you get in that original estimate is going to have a positive impact all the way through the repair process and through your client base. So to me, that's all pretty powerful stuff.
That's for sure. External trends as well. I mean, such as, with the introduction of all the mobile devices and the tablet devices, with the new Windows 8 tablets, there's so much competition in the hardware space that it's really bringing a lot of opportunities for us to kind of disconnect, our old PC that was behind, in the back room that we had to go to write the estimate. Now we're able to bring things out of that back room, bring them into the shop, bring them in front of the customer. And really leverage a lot of the technology that's happening around us, to improve our day-to-day operations. So we continue to keep an eye on all of the other moving pieces, the hardware and the software, so that we're delivering that optimal experience for our customers and our customer's customer.
Very good. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions. Thank you once again to Rick Turey, Neil Lowell, and Dave Henderson for presenting this information. And thanks also to those of you who joined us for this webcast. If you'd like to view this webcast again or perhaps share it with somebody who was unable to participate, it will soon be archived at abrn.com/2013challenges. Once again, that web address for the archive is abrn.com/2013challenges. Thank you and have a great afternoon.